What is up, and welcome back to another live stream on high altitude investing. Today is the 20th of February 2026, and I'm excited to be streaming about Bitcoin and crypto today and showing you guys what I think the market's going to do in the near future. So let me share my link for this live stream on my Discord and on X as well, and then we'll get started on today's live stream. So let's go ahead and sign in. I think I can just go like this. Okay. This should work. Apparently I haven't been signed into my X account for a minute on my computer because I usually just use my phone to post stuff on there. 527. Okay, cool. Share this here on X as well, and then we'll get started with today's stream. Welcome everybody. What is up? Peter. Operation Shutdown. Welcome. Good to see you tuning in. So yeah, let's talk about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is looking very triangle still. The best way to properly draw this triangle is basically to start right here, even though technically we have this low going all the way down to here. But the main points of the triangle are right here, right here, right here, and right here anyways. So it's totally okay for us to start the triangle right here to kind of make it fit this triangle shape. Not all triangles have to have a perfect, like the market can do this, right? You can have a triangle that looks more like that, where there's a deeper low before the triangle starts forming. So that's not uncommon. I've seen this before in crypto. So it's something that we see here with Bitcoin, a potential triangle. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see a bullish break above this upper resistance of this triangle. So be watching for more bullishness to come on Bitcoin. As long as we hold these lower support levels, this triangle will continue to be valid. So we just need to watch to make sure that we get a bullish break above the upper resistance level. So just keep an eye on that basically, right? But it does look really good. And I do think we will get a bullish break, something like this. And once we do break this line right here, Bitcoin should see more upside off of these lows. I've talked about how oversold it is because of the fear and greed index multiple times. I've talked about all of the different factors on why I'm still bullish on Bitcoin down here. Because a lot of people, I know there's a lot of opinions right now, a lot of people just talking about different ideas of what they think the market's going to do. And in this case, I'm still bullish, and I know a lot of people aren't. But yeah, I do believe we will get some type of a break through this level and start a full reversal for Bitcoin up off of these lows and begin to see a recovery in this market. So be watching for that. Happy Friday. Yeah, happy Friday to you as well. I know normally I do these live streams at like 10 a.m., but today I was doing some other stuff, doing some music with my friend, playing some music live with my friend. So because of that, I didn't have a chance to get on here and do a live stream until later on in the day. So silver is rebounding again. Yes, I wondered if this was going to happen. Here's the thing with silver, you guys. Silver has been in such a big cup and handle pattern for so long that the amount of bullish potential here for silver is very large. Let's pull up the silver chart where we have all of the data, because this one doesn't go all the way back. I believe it's this one has all the data. There we go. If you look at silver had a cup and handle going all the way back to the 70s. See this cup and handle pattern? So that's a huge cup and handle. So although I was warning people about silver up here because of how many people were excited about it, I told most of my friends when they were calling me that I thought silver would probably see a 30% correction off of this peak here because I knew it was overvalued in the short term. So although I was bearish up here, at least warning people to wait for a dip before they buy, now that we have had that dip, I do believe silver will continue to break out higher here in the big picture as a result of this big cup and handle pattern right here. So just keep an eye on that big cup and handle. For silver, that's probably going to send this thing rocketing a lot higher before the actual next big bear market comes for silver. So it looks pretty bullish to me. Reposted Steam on X, LFG. Well, thank you. I appreciate you guys when you share my channel, when you share my videos. All of that is a huge help for me growing this channel, for everybody getting aware of the potentials in the market and how to do technical analysis. So it's a huge help for everybody and the whole high altitude investing community. Sir Beard 89 says, Sup Dallin, can you look at Veladrome? Sure, let's look at it. Veladrome. I think there's somewhere else that we can look at it where we have a little bit more data. Let's try here on OKX. No, definitely not. Let's try. Okay, here we go. This is a little bit better. I talk about this all the time, but always go back to the furthest, biggest picture that you can possibly do as often as possible so that you see the most data. And you also want to look through the different exchanges to see where you can get more data than other places, so you can see the most historical data, because that's super key to being able to get a good, clear understanding of what's happening to these altcoins. And you can see here with Veladrome, if we take our ABC correction tool, this is an ABC correction. I know there's a big wick up here, but this turns into a big expanded flat correction. So this is still following Elliott wave principle, no problem here as far as that goes. I think there are other places where there's more data, but we don't really need it. This is enough data that we can do some Elliott wave analysis here on this coin. Now, if we double click on the chart here and just look for bullish divergence, you can see that we do have bullish divergence as well. So the MACD here on the bottom is making higher lows, where the price is making lower lows. So be watching for some type of a bullish reversal here due to this bullish divergence on Veladrome. Veladrome, I guess it's just Veladrome, right? So be looking for that. Bullish divergence is a very, very powerful signal, especially here on these bigger time frames, like the 8-day or the weekly time frame. If you find that bullish divergence, even though sometimes it can take a while to form, like you'll get another lower low sometimes, and the divergence will just keep forming. Ultimately, it does lead to a big reversal, and it's a very powerful signal here when you're zoomed out to be able to see when the market's going to, turn around off of the lows. So we do have bullish divergence here, and I bet that there's even more on like the 2-day time frame. If we zoom in here and look at this on the 2-day time frame, yeah, if we look at the 2-day right here, you can see lower lows in price across the bottom here, and higher lows on the MACD. So that's bullish divergence. Pretty typical, classic case of bullish divergence here on Veladrome. And there's also kind of a wedge structure here as well. A little bit of a triangle, kind of a wedge formation. So it wouldn't shock me in the slightest to see a bullish reaction here due to this divergence and due to the triangle pattern as well for this coin. BCH looking juicy. You guys already know I'm a big Bitcoin Cash fan. I love Bitcoin Cash. I'm kind of a rare person in this market, because a lot of people do really, really like Bitcoin. A lot of people really like Bitcoin Cash. A lot of people like BSV. And so some people think that you have to like choose one, but the thing is, I do technical analysis on these markets. So even though I'm not like all in on Bitcoin Cash versus Bitcoin, I believe both of them will see a very bullish move, just because I understand the technicals of this market based on the chart patterns. And so I'm not like married to one of the communities, because people get this one's bullish only or that one's bullish only. And fact of the matter is, both Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin both look extremely bullish. It's just crazy that people think that only one of them will pump, right? So if you look here on Bitcoin Cash does look, and I talked about this in my last stream, It does look exactly like the Litecoin fractal. So you can see this is Litecoin, this green line in the background here. And what I've basically done here is I've copied the Litecoin market cycle that led up to the 2017 bull market on Litecoin. You can see how bullish that 2017 bull market was, right? That green line in the background. So there's the accumulation pattern, the structure, the shape of Litecoin. And if you place it over top of Bitcoin Cash, it is actually crazy how similar the accumulation is in the big picture here for both of these coins. Litecoin being a little bit of a shorter accumulation, whereas this is a much bigger, more institutional, longer term accumulation on Bitcoin Cash than what happened on this first accumulation for Litecoin. But it's still a very, very, very powerful indicator of a potential bull market coming for Bitcoin Cash based on this big fractal, that you can see here of Litecoin in the background. So be looking for some type of bullish break. There's also, if you click on the logarithmic chart with BCH, you can see there's this big downward trending line that we actually tested multiple times. So once right here, and another time right there, another time right here, and another time right here. So multiple times Bitcoin Cash has tried to break above this logarithmic downward trending resistance, and it just can't do it until finally, recently, we had this bullish breakout and it came back down and tested this level as support. So this is actually super bullish for Bitcoin Cash. That's a classic breakout retest of a major trending resistance level, in this case a downward trending resistance level. So that leads to a bullish move as all of the liquidity starts to move into the market, because all of the bigger whales are looking at this big breakout in the big picture here. So I do believe Bitcoin Cash could see a very bullish move based on getting above this line, which we did. And now that it's testing it as support again, that's extremely common before these big breakouts. So I do see something like that coming pretty soon for Bitcoin Cash. Matt Osti, what is up? Thank you for tuning in. CryptoWave777, thanks Dallin for all the alpha. Can you do Cpool, please? Sure, let's check out Cpool. Let's pull up Cpool on, let's try Kraken. Kraken usually has pretty good data as far as historical data goes. Okay, let's try another place too to kind of compare which one has the most historical data. I bet this one does. Yeah, there we go. That's across all the exchanges. So if you look at Clearpool here, Cpool, first thing that I notice here is instantly I'm looking at the MACD, and you can see a big higher low on the MACD. So I'm always, whenever I see that, I'm always going to zoom into the chart and just zoom in as close as I can to the chart pattern and look to see if there's a lower low, because that's going to give me a clear indication that there is bullish divergence in the market. And that's exactly what we see here with Clearpool. You can see this big lower low in price, but if lo and behold, if you look at the MACD on the bottom, there's this big higher low. So that's extremely bullish. That's a very, very good sign for Clearpool. So watch for a bullish move off of these lows because of this big bullish divergence that's formed all the way back since the beginning of 2025 and even into this 2026 that we're now in. So that's a super, super good signal. The other thing too that I like about this setup, just like we were looking at with Bitcoin Cash, these big picture accumulations are similar. So when you're looking at these altcoins in the big picture and you're checking out what's going to happen in the market, trying to analyze what's going to happen, what's going to come, a lot of times if you're in the biggest time frames like this, like the 2-day, the 3-day, the 1-week time frame, you can look for these big picture accumulations. And in the case of Clearpool, that's exactly what this is. This is a big picture accumulation, much like Bitcoin Cash. If we just go ahead and, actually that's the wrong thing. Thought I still had Bitcoin Cash copied. Or yeah, much like the Bitcoin Cash fractal, but also I was using Litecoin originally to copy that fractal in the background. So it's actually, I like to call it the Litecoin example of an accumulation pattern, which it looks like I deleted. So let's go over to Litecoin and let's take that accumulation pattern and we'll hop back over to check out the fractal that we're seeing on Clearpool as well. So Litecoin on Bitfinex, if you go back here, you can just come over here on Litecoin, go to like a little bit of a bigger time frame like the 5-day. And if you look here, there's a tool over here on the left with Litecoin, or well, with any chart, but here on Litecoin, if you go to the left and grab the, where is it? The bars pattern tool, you can copy this whole pump like this, and it'll give you like this ghost pattern here in the background. You can copy paste, go over to Clearpool now on trading view here. And if you zoom out and then copy and paste this accumulation, you can see what I mean by these accumulations all being really the same. You know what I mean? Here in the big picture. I mean, there's different varieties of them, but once you have a basic understanding of what the different varieties of those accumulation patterns are, it's not that hard to hop on here and see when there's a match, when there's a pattern that's similar to one of the other ones that you've seen historically in this market. And in the case of Clearpool, you can see it's almost exactly like the Litecoin fractal as well, just like Bitcoin Cash. So I do see a big bullish breakout based on that MACD divergence and the big picture accumulation coming for Clearpool. Hondax, hello, welcome to the stream. Appreciate you tuning in. Hi, Dallin, can you do Miggles? Been looking terrible on the chart. Sure, let's pull up Miggles. I think you've had me cover Mr. Miggles before. So again, this is the first thing that I'm going to look at most of the time here in the big picture. Be looking for bullish divergence, because that's going to give you the big picture reversal that you're looking for, that you can buy the dip on and get those big pumps that happen in the market, just like what happened right here. You want to be looking for that bullish divergence, and especially, like I always say over and over, in the bigger time frame. This is the 5-day time frame here for Mr. Miggles, so I'm super zoomed out here as well. But if you look here, there is a big lower low in price and a big higher low on the MACD, so that is bullish divergence. That's your typical classic bullish divergence here on Mr. Miggles. So I would not be surprised at all to see a bullish reversal off of these lows anytime soon. I know it looks bearish. It can be easy to give up on stuff that looks like this, where it's made lower lows, where it's in this big dip. You know, we're below this major area of support right here that a lot of people probably would have been hoping that it held. But a lot of times that's what happens in the market, is you have a trend line that everybody thinks is going to be the end all be all. The market comes down to that trend line like this, and a lot of times it'll go like this, scare everybody out of the market and come right back up through, because the market has to basically screw people over and grab liquidity. That's what the market has to do. And whatever shape that takes, because there's a whole different bunch of different ways that you can have these big liquidity grabs happen, but that's exactly what we see here with Mr. Miggles. I'll show you a good example of one of these liquidity grabs. If you look at Bitcoin, and let's pull up Bitcoin on Bitstamp here, we'll go back over to Bitcoin here in 2018 and 2017 as well. If you look right here, there's this trend line right here on Bitcoin, and this one too, by the way, that everybody was looking at. Everybody thought this trend line is going to be the end all be all, albeit this trend line was a better indicator than this one was, because if you sold at this trend line break, you ended up saving a lot of, downward price action from your portfolio losing a bunch of money if you would have sold this right here at this trend line break. But either way, if you look at what happens here on Bitcoin, you get a break below this trend line, And then what happens is the price actually recovers and goes all the way to the moon. So that's a pretty typical thing to have happen in the market cycle. In fact, if you pull up a market cycle, this is super cool. So if you go to Google Images and pull up a market cycle, this is one of the examples of a market cycle here on Google Images. Let's go to a bigger picture view of it. And if you look here, you can see there's this line right here, this dotted line on the bottom. That's called the mean for the market. And what you see here, the price goes all the way up, comes all the way back down, and actually breaks below that dotted line. And that's what signals the beginning of the bull market. So that's called the despair phase of the cycle. And if we delete this trend line and just focus on that lower trend line, that's exactly what happened here to Bitcoin. If you're looking at Bitcoin, Bitcoin had this lower trend line that everybody was looking at. We fall below. That's the despair phase of the cycle. And then it returns back to the mean, right? And you can see this is the return to the mean. See, it says even on this thing down here in the bottom right, it says return to the mean, right? So you know once you go into despair of a market cycle, you're going to return to the mean. That center, that trend line that everybody was looking at that's kind of closer to the center of the cycle, a little bit below, that level, you'll go back to it. And that's exactly what happened here on Bitcoin. We returned to that trend line. And then, of course, we came back down, double bottom, break through again, and all the way to the moon. So that could easily happen with Mr. Wiggles, or Miggles, I mean. Yeah, that can easily happen to Mr. Miggles. If you look here, that's a break below that trend line. It's actually a similar kind of setup as what happened to Bitcoin back there. There was bullish divergence on Bitcoin. It's that despair phase of the market cycle that people give up on that actually ends up being a really good time to buy into the market. Love your videos. Could you do Hex on PulseChain and Hex on Ethereum? You know what? Sure. Let's pull up a deck screener here and do Hex on PulseChain. Hex WPLS. Oh, looky there. We're up 18% in the last 24 hours. That's pretty good. That's looking pretty bullish here. Not going to lie. Looks like it will probably go higher in the short term here. You can see that bullish divergence here on the 4 hour, right? Big higher low on the 4 hour, big lower low in price. So that's a classic bullish divergence here for Hex on PulseChain. So that looks really good. Also, if we zoom out to an even bigger time frame like the daily, there's an even bigger bullish divergence here as well, going all the way back over this whole period of time since the beginning of 2025. You have a big bullish divergence here on Hex on PulseChain. So be looking for some type of a bullish move because of that. Now let's pull up Hex on Ethereum here for you guys. Do a little analysis on it as well. So Hex on Ethereum is a little bit, I mean, if I was to choose between the two, I'd probably do Hex on PulseChain. Just the chart looks better overall. The time where I started talking about Hex on Ethereum was actually back here. I posted some stuff about it on my X account. Back then it was Twitter, right? About how I thought Hex was probably going to see a bull market. We did see a big bull market for Hex on Ethereum here. And then, of course, we had a big bear market afterwards. And I'm not saying it can't see a run, but just in terms of like the chart, I would probably go heavier in Hex on PulseChain than Hex on Ethereum. It's just the honest truth. Like it just looks better. If you take it off the log chart, you can see that this was a pretty brutal correction. So if it is going to see a bull market here, if it is going to have a run here soon, it's super undervalued. So we'll give it that. It's dirt cheap down here at these levels. But yeah, I do like the PulseChain Hex on PulseChain chart better overall. It just looks more springy to me, a little bit more, maybe more umph to it, a little bit more bullish. Like the percentage gain could be bigger. Just my personal view, but it's not bad. It's still not a bad chart. It's just when I would probably pick Hex on PulseChain more than Hex on Ethereum. If like if I was helping somebody get set up today, or if I was getting ready to put $10,000 more into the market, I'd put a heavier hold on Hex on PulseChain, basically. Low volume is right before the breakout. Yes, that is actually true. This is a basic rule about trading and investing. If you go over to the rules of volume, let's go to trading patterns here and click on the rules of volume analysis. If you look here, when there's declining price and declining volume, that's actually bullish. And if there's increasing price and increasing volume, then that's bullish as well. So if we're looking at something like, well, let's look at Litecoin, for example. Okay, let's pull up Litecoin on Coinbase. If you look at Litecoin here on Coinbase, you can see the price of Litecoin has been declining over this whole period of time since back here at the beginning of 2025. Declining price and declining volume as well. So that's actually a bullish signal for the market. So be looking for some type of a bullish sort of move here on Litecoin. We're oversold on the MACD. We do have decreasing price and decreasing volume. So that's a super, super bullish kind of structure. So yeah, low volume can come before a big breakout, and also low volatility as well. As you can see right here, there's really low volatility on Litecoin. That basically means the price wasn't moving up and down very much. And during that low volatility zone here, that's right where we started to get a bullish breakout. We broke very bullish out of that low volatility. So if there isn't a lot of movement, if it's just kind of going like this, that can also be an indicator that a bullish breakout will happen. So those are some of the things that kind of lead to breakouts in the market. But yeah, I do think that we will get a big bullish move across the board with crypto. There's a lot of reasons to believe that. There's a lot of reasons to be bullish on crypto. So basically just keep looking for that big picture breakout for crypto as a whole, for Bitcoin, for the total market cap, because that's really going to signal that the big picture bull market for crypto is starting, because all these altcoins are stupid undervalued. Like, they are so undervalued. It's crazy. I mean, look at Litecoin here. You guys might not like Litecoin. You might like Litecoin, but fact of the matter is, if you look at Litecoin here in the big picture, you can see that Litecoin is basically on the lowest possible trend line for support. So this is such a good time to buy. We're right on this level that we've tested for multiple years. And every time that we've hit this level, we had a strong bullish reaction for this coin. So I do think we will get a big bullish reaction here on Litecoin. You can see how undervalued the chart really is. It's not that hard to see, is basically what I'm trying to tell you guys. If you look at the Bitcoin dominance as well, Bitcoin dominance looks bearish. This does not look bullish. This is a big bearish rising wedge here on Bitcoin dominance, going all the way back to like 2022 here on Bitcoin dominance. So this is another reason to be more bearish on Bitcoin dominance, because of this rising wedge, but we also have this cyclical setup here as well. So based on time cycles, we should be curling down here on Bitcoin dominance as well. So there's a lot of reasons to be bearish with Bitcoin dominance. And that's basically really bullish for Bitcoin and the crypto markets as a whole. If we pull up Bitcoin here, pull up Bitcoin on Coinbase. I know Bitcoin dominance looking bearish sounds bearish for Bitcoin, but it's actually not. Whenever Bitcoin has pumped the hardest, like here in 2021 or here in 2017, whenever Bitcoin has pumped the hardest, that's been a period where Bitcoin dominance is going down. That's the way it works, because people are going heavy into altcoins. So Bitcoin is running like crazy, but altcoins are doing a bigger percentage gain. So you end up getting this big pump in Bitcoin dominance. I mean, in Bitcoin, but Bitcoin dominance is dropping off a cliff. So that's basically what can happen here. And, for crypto is a big run on Bitcoin, even though Bitcoin dominance is going down. Bitcoin will go parabolic, but altcoins like Ethereum and Solana and everything else will actually see a bigger run in terms of percentage. So that's a really, really good thing to be looking at. Okay, let's see. What else do you guys want me to cover? Dallin is a great man. I follow him since 2019. He has great knowledge and was right multiple times. I connected just to say that. Check the vid later. Well, hey, thank you for tuning in, and I appreciate the kind words. Thanks, Dal. Oh, I already read that one. I always do that. There's so many of them, it's hard to keep track of which ones I've read and which ones I haven't. Let's see here. We already covered PulseChain and Hex as well. Hi, Dallin. Can you do EGLD? Sure. Let's pull it up. EGLD, not LGLD. So let's zoom in here. Pretty brutal, right? Pretty big correction here for this coin. But this is not the time to be a bear, right? You don't want to try to be a bear on a setup like this. This is totally time to be bullish on this coin. Totally time to be bullish. So let's zoom out here a little bit. Like on the 20-day, you can see this is a big time frame. If we just click here on the MACD and keep the price up on the top, kind of zoomed out here, you can see a big picture divergence. So again, bullish divergence, pretty much the first thing that I'm looking for, because it's super, super key, and it leads to big reversals in the big picture, and that's really what I care about in this market. I want to see those big pumps, like 2017 or 2021. That's what I care about. Not that I don't do some day trading sometimes, but what I truly care about, what makes me the most money, what's been the most successful, the simplest trading strategy ever, is basically to look for those big picture pumps. When stuff is stupid undervalued, buy in, let it pump in the big picture. That's been the most profitable, simplest, powerful trading strategy that you can have. So that's why we're here on the 20-day time frame here with EGLD. And if you look, we do have bullish divergence, right? That you can just see it right away on the chart. And also, even if you go down to the daily, there's even more bullish divergence as well. Lower lows in price, higher lows on the MACD. Pretty clear, pretty easy to see. There's also a channel here. You can see like a perfect channel. So any break above this channel is going to be a huge signal, kind of like how this was a big dump right here. A break above this channel would lead to a big pump, like you're talking the same type of amplitude that we saw down like this back in the other direction if we break bullish out of this channel. So be looking for that on the daily time frame. Pretty easy to draw this channel with a couple trend line tools on the daily. Fact of the matter is, this is the depression phase of the cycle in the big picture here. If you zoom out, this is euphoria over here. This would be depression right here. So despair, depression, like we were looking at with this market cycle example over here. That despair phase of the cycle, the depression phase of the cycle in the case of the Wall Street cheat sheet, is the point where it looks like there's no more hope, like it's totally dead. It's fallen below all support levels. It just, people are in depression. If they bought the top, they're literally depressed that they put their money into it. They're pretty down on themselves for buying so high. And if you drop the Wall Street cheat sheet onto EGLD, pretty soon you see that this would be the parabolic run right here, like that. Then you get the big correction afterwards, the big dump in the market, which is what this is here on the Wall Street cheat sheet. So whether you're looking at the standard market cycle, whether you're looking at the Wall Street cheat sheet, you can really see the depression phase, the despair phase pretty easily in these charts if you're zoomed out. And sometimes, you'll have to dollar cost average because you might think this is the depression phase and it goes a little bit lower. But you just keep an eye on the cycle in the big picture, and pretty soon you realize, oh, we're in depression. This is clearly depression. And that's exactly what we see here with EGLD. So this can easily see a big reversal here in the big picture, no problem. Like this is perfect kind of chart pattern structure that you want to see a reversal in the market, to see a big picture pump. This is exactly what Cardano did in 2018. Like this is what crypto has done so many times in the past. It's not like it does anything new. Crypto, I mean, if you look right here, you know, ADA, it really did the same thing as what we were just looking at with EGLD. Let's put ADA on the left and we'll just put EGLD back on the chart, might as well. If you look here, that's what it did, you know? Like crypto does this kind of setup a lot. It's not crazy. Like even with Cardano, we broke below this support level and went for a new all-time low, just like we did here with EGLD. How we had this support level here and went for a new all-time low. So these cycles are discernible if you're zoomed out. You have to be zoomed out. You have to be looking at the right thing, but you can find it. You know, you can find the cycle. You can start to see it. You can see the fractal of what's happening, and then you can position yourself in the dip before the big pump happens. And like I said, this trading strategy that works the best for me is looking for these pumps, right? Like here on Cardano, this pump right here, or this pump right here. Those are the ones that matter. Those are the ones that if you can buy the dip when people are scared, when it's clearly retraced from an all-time high, when people have given up on it, like I said, in the bigger time frame, like the 20-day, the 5-day, the 2-day, the 1 week, you can discernibly identify the market cycle. And if you buy the bottom of that cycle and you hold on for the pump, you're going to be super glad that you did. And that's basically the trading strategy with a lot of these setups. And the setups are not that different. They are so universally similar. It's crazy. Like, yeah, it's just crazy to me. I'm trying to think of a good example of a setup to look for. Let's check out Hbar on Binance here. You know, Hbar here on Binance. And it's not just crypto too. That's the thing I always try to drill in people's minds in these live streams is this stuff has happened before. It's not like markets are doing something that they've never done. There is a consistency to what moves markets up and down, and it truly doesn't matter if you're looking at the stock market or the crypto markets or whatever, or gold or silver. The same principles apply. The same technical analysis, the same cup and handles, the same triangles, the same RSI oversold. All of that stuff works across the board in multiple markets. So even here with Hbar, you can see here on Hbar, it does look super similar to Amazon. There's just no question in my mind that when I'm looking at Hbar and I look at what happened to Amazon during the internet bubble, then the dump that happened, and then the recovery, it looks exactly like Hbar. It's crazy. So these fractals happen in multiple markets across the world because people are really not that hard to predict. We do the same types of things at different phases in the market consistently. We're just human beings. We have emotional responses to major pumps and pullbacks, and we kind of go through the same types of things. We get excited about new technologies. We get fearful. We have all of these emotions associated with certain industries and technologies that you get the same types of patterns appearing in the markets. This is how, see, silver's pump was no surprise to me. When silver pumped, it didn't surprise me in the slightest. I wasn't bearish on silver. I wasn't looking for a big dump on silver. It was the least surprising thing ever to me because basically since 2018 and 2017 as well, I had been learning about all of this stuff a lot and looking at all of the different markets, like major markets in the world, the stock market, silver, crypto, all of that, and looking at their setups, and I knew what the internet bubble looked like. I had seen the internet bubble on the NASDAQ, the IXIC here on TradingView. And basically, because I knew what the NASDAQ, the internet bubble fractal looked like, when silver over here, before the pump, you can take the pump off with this replay tool. You can take the pump off of the chart. And if you just look at silver before it pumped, and then you look at the internet bubble, basically since 2017 and 2018, when I really got heavy into technical analysis, I had been learning about it before that, but I got heavy into it in 2016, 2017, and 2018. I had been looking at silver, comparing it to the internet bubble, because it was the same human psychology in two completely different worlds. You know, the internet bubble, or also the NASDAQ composite, is the US stock market, different world than the world of silver. Different industry, different, but you can see that the same fractal of human emotion is appearing on both charts. So that's why I tell people, yes, you totally can compare Amazon to crypto cycles. You can compare the internet bubble to silver. You can compare all of this different stuff because it's human emotion appearing in the chart over and over again, and that is pretty repeatable. It's not super different. It's actually a repeatable phenomena, the human emotion of the market cycle. So it was no surprise when silver pumped to me, because I'd been looking at it, especially right here when oil went negative in 2020 and silver dumped down to like $12 per ounce. I really got super bullish on it because it reminded me of the internet bubble over here on the right. Like, it was just so similar. I just knew that that silver was going to pump. I just knew it. It was so obvious and so clear that it was like right here in its cycle, similar to the internet bubble over here on the right. So you guys get the point. There's a lot of similarities between different charts. You can compare different markets together. I know people always say you can't, or people will try to say that in the comments of my videos or even on X. They'll say, oh, well, you're comparing two completely different industries together. What do you think you're doing, Dallin? Why would you ever do that? Fact of the matter is, it's a valid, powerful trading strategy to do that. All of the biggest, most profitable, most high statistically accurate traders that I know are looking at similarities between markets and studying the cycles and understanding the Elliott waves and the cycles and the fractals and the topping patterns and bottoming patterns, and they're studying all of that in the big picture, and they're using it in their analysis. So of course it's useful and powerful to be comparing different markets together, no matter what somebody on X or whatever says. You just have to do what's actually useful, because that's how you're going to be a successful trader and investor in the crypto markets. That's why I tell people, you guys, how could you be bearish on Theta? Okay? I know there's the lawsuit. Well, XRP was sued by the SEC. Like, you guys, it's not that crazy to have stuff like that happen. And a lot of times all the bearish news, all the bad sounding stuff always comes in at the bottom of a big correction. That's exactly what we see here with Theta. If you look at Theta right now, Theta's like at the bottom of its cycle. It's just exactly like silver at the bottom of its market cycle fractal. See this right here? This is the internet bubble. If you look at Theta, it's the same thing. You can just look at the chart. It's obvious that Theta in the big picture is extremely undervalued. It looks exactly like the bottom of the internet bubble. There's no question in my mind that at 19 cents down here, it's like stealing Theta tokens. No question in my mind, because of what's going to come in the big picture, the big recovery, just like what happened to the NASDAQ. It's fractal analysis of these market cycles, and it's really, really cool how well it works. It's super fascinating to see. At this point, I'm about to cut off a chicken head and start dancing in circles. Well, I don't know if you should do that, but I mean, I guess we all, have different ways that we enjoy life. I just need a 10 to 100x pump on my BCH and SLP. I do think we will get a big pump on Bitcoin Cash and a big pump on SLP. So I would say just keep your faith, bro. Like it's going to work out. I know it can be discouraging. I know it can feel like the longest wait ever. Like everybody's been saying it's going to go up and then it takes longer than what most people said it was going to take. And it can be really discouraging. But I promise you, buying the dip of these big picture cycles, holding on for these big picture pumps is totally, totally, totally worth it. It's worth every second of the pain and the waiting and everything that you have to go through to be able to ride this type of pump. Like what happened on silver or what happened on Zcash or XRP. I called the Zcash pump and the XRP pump the silver pump. It's super fun when this big pump happens in the market. So you just have to trust the big picture cycle, as discouraging as it can be, to ride those, especially if you bought in and then you see it dump even further and you don't have any more money to put in. Like you've been like all in on the markets and like for a while now, it can be like, man, but it is totally worth it to ride the pump that comes afterwards. Aave. Yes, I actually love Aave. Aave is one of my favorite setups. So let's pull up Aave here as well. Aave. Aave is so much like Bitcoin in 2015. It's crazy. Like this, it's just so crazy to me how this stuff just happens over and over again. So let's pull up Bitcoin over here on the right, and we'll keep Aave over here on the left. And you got to go to Bitstamp because Coinbase doesn't have the data going all the way back to 2015. But if you go over here to Bitstamp, you do have all of the data for Bitcoin, or at least most of it. You don't have the 2013 pump over here, but that's on other places. So you can see here with Aave, Aave looks exactly like Bitcoin here in 2016. Like if you look at Bitcoin, 2014, 2013, 2015, 2016, like this whole period right here, that's a market cycle for Bitcoin. You have the first sell-off, the parabolic run, the depression phase that everybody gives up. They're all depressed and they all think the market's going to dump. That is exactly what we see here with Bitcoin as a classic market cycle, a classic, just a classic market cycle here on the 15-day time frame. And if you look at Aave over here on the left on the 20-day time frame, or we could go to the 15, it really doesn't matter, but I like the 20-day. It's a little bit more clear, easier to see. The candlesticks fit a little bit better. And if you look here, it's basically like buying Bitcoin right here at like $300 before Bitcoin went parabolic in 2017. It's so similar. That's exactly where it's at. This is called the disbelief phase of the cycle. After a classic market cycle, you always have that phase where people disbelieve that a pump is going to happen. They're skeptical. They think there's no way. They're just totally in disbelief that you're going to get a pump in the market. And that's what happened here on Bitcoin right here. And that's exactly what happened here on Aave as well. This is the disbelief phase. If we pull up the market cycle chart, throw it on top of Aave here and just look at the cycle, you can see that after every pump in the market and a pullback, there's always a disbelief phase in the market where people don't believe it's going to recover. And that's the best time to buy. That's always the best time to buy. So yeah, this is a really good setup here. This is the same point of the cycle that Chainlink is on. If we pull up Chainlink as well, if you look at Chainlink here, Chainlink is also in the disbelief phase of its cycle. So here's Bitcoin on the right still, Chainlink over here on the left. You can see this big ABC correction on Chainlink, big ABC correction on Bitcoin. Same thing, same difference. And then Bitcoin pumps and pulls back. It zoomed out a little bit more, but this was a pretty big pullback. And this was a pretty big pullback too. Yeah, Chainlink pumped and it pulled back, but it's not doing anything different than what we've seen in a classic market cycle, like what you see over here on the right with Bitcoin, where you have those types of pullbacks as you're establishing an uptrend in the bigger picture, like when you're looking for a big picture uptrend to form in the market. So that's pretty awesome. You know, it looks perfect. If you ask me, it looks exactly the same. Even another example of the disbelief phase is Bitcoin right here. So here's Bitcoin on the 15-day time frame on the right, and here's Chainlink over here on the left. If you look, I mean, that's what the disbelief phase looks like, you know? You can see it. Like, it's not that hard. Here's a big pump, here's a big pullback, here's a big pump, here's a big pullback. You know, it's just the same thing. Same thing. I don't see any difference here. Buying Chainlink right now at $8 per Chainlink is kind of like buying Bitcoin here at 3,800 per coin before it went all the way to 69,000 and then ultimately all the way to 126,000 per coin. Bitcoin broke bullish out of the disbelief phase, and Chainlink, I am fully confident, will also break bullish out of its disbelief phase. There's nothing like that's telling me it's not going to do this. So it's a super, super good setup, and I firmly believe that Chainlink will pump really hard, but that also goes for a lot of these coins. Aave, a lot of setups are in that same exact point in their market cycle, and it's super cool to see. I love seeing that type of setup occur in the market. Hey Dallin, feel it in my bones that PulseChain / Hex will rocket when the time is right. I think so too, 100%. Tam says everyone hit the like button. Great to catch you live. Well, thank you for tuning in, Tam. Do you think legacy altcoins will ever recover their all-time high while the market is diluted with all of these new coins? Yes, I do. This is what crypto does. A big bull market happens, a big pump, and then a big correction right after. Just like what happened here in 2021, right? You just had this big pump on Chainlink and a big correction. During those big pumps, 1 billion coins get created, and in the correction too. So the market gets overinflated in terms of supply. The supply of all of the different coins increase. And basically, that's what causes a big bear market in the first place, is there's a bunch of projects getting released. People are super excited. The supply of everything increases. It gets overvalued because of the FOMO of the market cycle. Then you get a big correction, right? And in that correction, it can feel like, because of how diluted the market is from the last big bull market, it can feel like it's not going to have another big bull market to happen. But what basically happens is you do get another big bull market, and the bear market gives it plenty of liquidity for all of these coins to recover, like a lot of coins, like Bitcoin Cash, like Dogecoin, coins that people think are dead, coins that people think that's not going to pump, you know, it's done and over with. It's done its thing. That Dogecoin isn't going to pump. You know, a lot of people believe that, right? But if you pull up Dogecoin here on Binance, and if you look at Bitcoin over here on the right, and you're looking at the cycle, Dogecoin is in the disbelief phase as well, just like Bitcoin right here. It's the same thing. So, of course, a lot of people are going to be bearish. People think the market's overvalued. People think it's grown too much. But realistically, Dogecoin is in that phase of the cycle where it's actually getting ready to break out in a very profound sort of way. And there's a lot of other coins that are set up just like this. There are older coins that people have given up on, where they don't think they're going to pump, but they don't have an understanding of the market cycles. They don't know where they're at in the cycle. And so basically, people make the wrong choice. You know, a lot of people make the wrong choice. So I do think a lot of legacy coins, a lot of older coins, a lot of coins people have given up on will pump, like Litecoin as well. You know, Litecoin I've talked about multiple times on today's live stream. But if we pull up Litecoin here on, let's go with Let's just use Coinbase. If you pull up Litecoin on Coinbase, it's on the lowest possible trend line. Like it's so undervalued right now. It's like buying dirt cheap. You know, it's crazy. Let's pull up Nvidia right here on the right. And I've shown this fractal before, but it's just as true today as it has been the last 20,000 live streams that I've done. It's just progressed. It's just really done the same thing more. It's just moving across the same level that it has the whole time. So Litecoin is so dirt cheap right now. It's stupid. It's so crazy undervalued. So yeah, I do think a lot of these coins will pump very, very hard. I firmly believe they will. What about Tdrop? It's got a very interstellar new use case for AI agent adoption. Let's pull it up. Gotta love innovation in the Theta network and all of the projects that people are doing, all the stuff that they're doing on the Theta network. There's some pretty cool stuff over there. Let's pull up Tdrop here. Or did you say T-Fuel? I think you said Tdrop, didn't you? Yeah, Tdrop. That's what I thought. Tdrop is in the depression phase, the despair phase, just like I've said for a while now of the cycle. If you pull up the market cycle chart here and just throw it on top, you'll see pretty quickly that Tdrop is in that depression sort of phase of its cycle, okay? So you have this big drop right here on Tdrop like this. Well, that's exactly what this is right here on the cycle. Not all the time you're going to get all of the historical data. Some of these coins get released at the top of a bull market, like a crypto bull market, and they don't have the pump leading up to the correction. They just have a big dump. And so all you see is just this big crash in the market. Well, if it got released at the top of a major bull market, then of course, all you're going to see is a big dump in price. So you have to zoom out here on the 20-day and look at the market cycle and see here where you're at. And essentially, because you know that this was added to Gate.io at the very top of a bull market here in 2022, we can confidently discern based on looking at where all of the other altcoins are at in their cycles, based on looking at what we've seen in previous cycles, and find out that Tdrop here is at the bottom of the despair phase or the depression phase of its cycle. It literally just doesn't have the pump, at least not here on Gate.io, that to show the pump before the correction, but you can still kind of determine where you're at if you understand how to do this. If you have a basic concept of how to line up the chart in the market cycle in the big picture. Because it's pretty simple. If you can do that, it helps a lot with your trading and your investing. So that's where Tdrop is at right now. I like to use the Cardano fractal often. So if we pull up the Cardano fractal here, just as an example, you can see here with Cardano, very similar setup, right? The only difference that you see is that there isn't the pump here on Gate.io. There isn't a pump leading up to the correction. But it's still possible to determine where Tdrop is at in its cycle in the big picture if you're looking at this stuff, if you're determining the connections for that altcoin, in this case Tdrop. So if you look right here, Cardano, Tdrop. And you can even zoom in here on Cardano and look right here. You can see Cardano did this break below this level. So we have this support level here, and it actually looked like it was going to hold maybe here, but then it broke below right here and then pumped. So that's another example, like I was talking about earlier in today's live stream, that the market will do a liquidity grab if there's a major trend line or a major support level. A lot of times you will get a bearish break of that support level or that trend line, and when you break below that level, it's basically a liquidity grab and the market pumps right after. And that's what you see here with Cardano, right? You have a break below this trend line, this in this case support level, and then the market pumps right after. And if you look at Tdrop over here and you zoom into the chart, I know a lot of people think, oh, look, it made a lower low. It's in a downtrend. It can't recover. There's no way that Tdrop is going to recover. It's going to keep going down. That kind of talking, looking at the market that way. But it's not any different than what happened to Cardano over here on the right. There's not a difference in these two charts. It's the same thing. See that? Perfect. Perfect kind of setup here. Same type of attitude, same type of movement, falling below a trend line, falling below what people think is going to hold, and then the market pumps. And I do think we will pump hard here with Tdrop. We're in that depression phase, which is what this was right here on Cardano, was the depression phase. Hey from Hollywood Hills. Well, hello. I used to live in Santa Monica for a little while. It was kind of cool out there. Except that so what happened was I got my apartment, like I set up my lease and everything. And I set it up, and then COVID hit right after. So I was already signed on the lease. So I moved out to Santa Monica, and then COVID hit. So unfortunately, like the time that I did live in Santa Monica was like not the most like optimal time. But of course I visited the area quite a few times, and I love California. It's awesome out there. I also really, really enjoy Vegas. I lived in Vegas for quite some time as well, but living in Utah now, and it's one of my favorite places to be as well. I've got a lot of family out here, and it's like home for me, It's pretty cool out here. Yeah, COVID did suck out there. It definitely did. Charts looks maybe similar, but Nvidia has utility. It serves client and generates revenue. Litecoin is quite useless. In fact, it might pump, but it'll never go over its all-time high. Well, I do see it differently than you do, but that's okay. I see Litecoin as having more utility and value than kind of how you've painted it in that comment, but whatever. Fact of the matter is, people are accumulating it, big institutions, big people, and it is a pretty good cryptocurrency. Bitcoin's a very good cryptocurrency. There's actually a lot of really good ones, and there's definitely some that are more advanced in terms of their technology. And I know it's easy to get kind of tribal here, like fighting against different coins, like maybe the DCR community is getting mad at Monero because they both have like privacy elements or whatever. But it's not really like that. If you look historically, crypto pumps together. Like if anything is going to pump, they're all going to pump together. It's only a matter of time before they're all pretty much pumping on some degree, even though some will pump a lot harder than other coins. You do get a lot of coins pumping, like a lot of coins pumping together. They all follow each other. So if Bitcoin is bullish, if Tdrop is bullish, if Litecoin looks bullish, if all of these coins look bullish, they're all going to pump together. It doesn't matter if you like Litecoin or not, or if you believe that it has utility or not. Fact of the matter, it's going to pump. It's going to follow the crypto markets all the way to the moon. So you just kind of have to focus on the bigger picture and, not just trade based on fundamentals. Because people have told me, like, oh, do you realize how crappy Bitcoin is? Bitcoin hit 126,000 per coin. Or they told me, do you realize how dumb Dogecoin is? Dogecoin is this stupid meme coin with no utility. Do you think I cared when I bought Dogecoin before Elon Musk shouted it out in 2021 and Dogecoin pumped all the way to the moon and just totally made me a bunch of money in a super short period of time? No, I didn't care. It was cool to be able to buy Dogecoin and then have it pump crazy hard, even if people say Dogecoin doesn't have utility. I'm like, yeah, well, it's got more utility than people even realize if you actually look into it. So, but whatever. I'm a big crypto nerd, so not everybody believes in crypto as much as I do. At the moment, it doesn't seem like the cycle is working. It depends on how you look at the cycle. If you look at the cycle based on a 4-year cycle, then yeah, you might assume that we've deviated from a 4-year cycle, but there's a lot of times in markets, and if you ask, for example, ChatGPT or just study a little bit on cycles, you can have a cyclical pump and pullback happening in the market and have a bigger cycle take over that basically dwarfs the power of the smaller cycle and completely deviates from that previous pattern of the 4-year cycle. So it's possible that that happens for crypto. And to me, in my opinion, based on what I see in the charts, that's what it looks like is going to happen, is a breakout of that pattern. Let's pull up NVIDIA just to show how cycles can deviate from a classic cyclical pattern and then break out into a bigger sort of bull market and a bigger cycle take over. If you look at NVIDIA here and we pull up our cyclical tool here on the left, if we just go over here and pull up time cycles and we go to the bottom here and to the bottom right here, you can see NVIDIA had like this multi-year cycle, you know, basically like a 4-year cycle essentially. NVIDIA was doing pump, pull back, right? Was essentially doing the cycle, and then it just went sideways, just like what Litecoin just did. It just went sideways, feels dead, feels painful. It's on its lowest trend line. People, you know, probably totally giving up on it. Tons of haters, tons of people not thinking it's going to do anything in a significant sort of way. And then all of a sudden, if you look at what happens to NVIDIA, it breaks free out of that cycle and completely gets dwarfed by a bigger market cycle that just eliminates what it was doing historically. And if you pull up Litecoin as well, looking at Litecoin here, Litecoin did the same thing. Yeah, we did have 2 4-year cycles right here, like this, but then it went sideways for like this whole period of time on the lowest trend line too. So it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Litecoin pump in a significant way up off of these lows like this and start to break out up above its previous old all-time high and deviate out of this 4-year cycle pattern. I don't think Litecoin is just going to do this forever. So the market does different things. It doesn't make any sense to me, just logically, and looking at other cycles as well, for Litecoin to do a chainsaw blade forever. You know, like that's what it looks like, is a big chainsaw blade. And if it's just going to do the 4-year cycle forever and never pump into a big mass adoption like what happened to other useful technologies with high demand, then why would it do anything? Like why would people even invest in crypto at all? Why would there be big institutions? Why would crypto be as good as it is if it wasn't going to do something in the big picture? So I see this here with Litecoin and I think, yeah, it's probably going to deviate from this pump and dump sort of pattern that we see. It's probably going to deviate from it. It's probably going to break out and do something bigger and more profound and more bullish than anything we've ever seen. And I do not think that it's just going to look like a chainsaw blade forever. Especially when other things like NVIDIA have done similar patterns in the past, and you see a big pump rather than, you know, just this sort of 4-year cycle forever. So I think it's possible we deviate from our previous cycle. Also, if you look at the Bitcoin dominance, which to me is more of a clear cyclical sort of setup here, Bitcoin dominance is actually a little bit bigger than a 4-year cycle. If you look right here, if you click on this all-time low to this all-time low right here, you can see this is January of 2018. So 1, 2, 3, 4, basically 5 years here on Bitcoin dominance. So it's almost more like a 5-year cycle in terms of Bitcoin dominance. You can see this pump, this pullback, because you always measure from cycle low to do these cyclical analysis, right, of these cycles. And Bitcoin dominance really is set up more on like a 5-year cycle. And anytime Bitcoin dominance has fallen like this, the crypto markets pump like crazy. This was 2021, so that was like the big bubble in 2021, and here is 2017. That's the big bubble in 2017. So I really, really think we will get a bullish move in the crypto markets in a profound way, and Bitcoin dominance will fall off a cliff here because of a little bit of a bigger cycle than what other people are kind of looking at. And even Bitcoin dominance could deviate from this setup here and go into a bigger cycle, be dwarfed by a bigger, like a bigger cycle could dwarf the smaller one and cause a bigger move in either direction. In this case, I see Bitcoin dominance as being bearish, right? What narrative do you see running first? I guess what you mean is what coin do I think is going to run first? So that's kind of a hard question to answer. It's harder to tell which coin will run first so much as which ones are overall better than other ones in terms of percentage gain. That's a little bit easier to map out on the chart. But, I will tell you that some of my favorite coins are like Monero. I like Monero a lot. I'm pretty big on Dogecoin. Dogecoin has always been a strong runner in these big pumps, like whenever Bitcoin dominance has fallen off a cliff in 2017 or in 2021, Bitcoin or Dogecoin has always been a big percentage runner. So it's like an easy play. And I know not everybody's going to like the same coins that I like. A lot of people are going to think, oh, well, why would you buy Dogecoin, or why would you buy this, that, or the other thing? But honestly, you guys, when I think about the markets, I just look at the charts and see what's historically happened. And historically, Dogecoin has been a very, very strong runner in terms of percentage gain. So I do actually like Dogecoin. Zcash is cool. Litecoin is cool. It's got optional privacy built into it, similar to what Zcash and Monero, which have both been pretty good runners so far. And I would not at all be surprised to see these privacy type coins continue to be a big player in the crypto markets, because demand drives price, right? So if there's bullish, if there's increasing demand, then you're going to get a bullish reaction in price. And in the case of stuff like Zcash, there's a lot of demand for privacy centered coins. Like there's just a lot of demand for it in the world. And because of that, I see these privacy focused coins like Zcash, Monero, Litecoin, I see them as actually doing pretty good because of that aspect of them. They've already started to do pretty well. But there's a lot of coins. Like I can't just tell you this one's going to run first. That's not as easy as it sounds. There's usually what you can do, the biggest, like the best thing to do if you're looking for which one could run first, is to go to the 30-day monthly volume rankings and come over here and look at the 30-day volume on these different coins. And if you look at the coin market cap here on the 30-day monthly volume rankings, you can just click here to sort by the highest volume setups. Volume precedes price. So if you have increasing price and increasing volume at the same time, then that's typically very, very bullish in the market. And here with our monthly volume rankings, you can see that Dogecoin is pretty high here. Chainlink is pretty high here. Tron is pretty high. Cardano is pretty high. Zcash is pretty high. Optimism is pretty high. Solana is pretty high. You can just look at these different coins and see, oh, these are clearly trending in terms of volume. So they're more likely to break out first than something that's super low volume, just as a general rule of thumb. Obviously, you can get stuff that's lower in volume that climbs up and just breaks out, but usually the early indicator of a pump is an increase in volume. Especially if you see an increase in volume coupled with an increase in price like this, then you really know that that's probably going to go parabolic like that and go even steeper and even more bullish whatever market you're trading. So that's usually a really strong signal. Increasing price and increasing volume at the same time, like that. Super bullish. Support at $1. Support for what coin? Telcoin, sure, I'm happy to cover Telcoin, but I'm already an hour and 14 minutes in. So whenever I get like over an hour, I try to stop because I usually just get like, you know, it's like to focus for like multiple hours without like a bunch of coffee or something, which I try not to do, is hard sometimes. So if you look right, at least peak focus, right? Like I try to do everything that I do in my life in peak focus. So if you look here with Bitcoin dominance, or with not Bitcoin dominance, let's go over to Telcoin. Forgot that I had Telcoin. If you go over to Telcoin here, Telcoin looks super bullish, right? I know I've shown this before. It's not like any new profound revelation for me to show this, but it is true. If you look at Telcoin and then you keep not Cardano over here on the right, but let's put Ethereum over here on the right instead. Ethereum's looking pretty bullish, right? You can see Ethereum is just as big on the right. This is a perfect market cycle on Ethereum. You can see how bullish that pump was in 2017 or 2021. I mean, pretty bullish pump here for Ethereum. And if you look at Telcoin over here on the left, it's really the same thing. It's really, in terms of the cycle and stuff, it's really the exact same thing. So you have a big correction, big ABC, and with Telcoin as well, big ABC like that. So if you're looking at what's going to happen here at Telcoin, I would pretty much tell you guys, tell you what's going to happen with Telcoin. It's a bad joke, okay? I would tell you that it's in the disbelief phase of the cycle, just exactly like how Ethereum was right here before Ethereum pumped all the way to a new all-time high. That's pretty much what it looks like right now. So I'm still bullish on Telcoin, still the same fractal, still the same patterns, still the same sort of setup. And like I said, declining volume and price is actually bullish. So even though the price of Telcoin since the top here in 2021 has gone down, you actually see decreasing price and volume at the same time, which is exactly what led to a big pump on Ethereum as well. See, decreasing price and volume at the same time. So I expect that for Telcoin as well. But I'm not going to go any longer. I'm already an hour and 17 minutes in, and that's a good day for me. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I love you. I appreciate you. I look forward to seeing you guys in future videos and in future live streams. Hope you guys found it valuable, enjoyed it, found it useful, learned some new stuff, and that it helped you prepare yourself for the potential pump coming in these markets, which I firmly believe we will see soon. So that's it for today. And as always, stay profitable out there.